Ladies and gentlemen, there is a quorum present. This opens the meeting of the Cable Commission, and I will read this statement. This meeting of the Sacramento Metropolitan Cable Television Commission is being videotaped in its entirety and will be cablecast live without interruption on Metro Cable 14, the Government Affairs channel on the Sacramento Cable System. Today's meeting is being taped and will be shown Monday, February 8 at 9 a.m. on Channel 14. A VHS copy is also available for checkout from any library branch. Members of the audience wishing to address the Commission should fill out a speaker identification form, which can be found on the back table, and give it to the Secretary. Walk right up here, please, and hand it to her. Please speak into the microphone when addressing the Commission and state your name for the record. There will be intervals on some of the topics where timing will be brought into play because of the number of speakers, and at that time my secretary here will be holding up cards to indicate the time elapsed as we go along. Roll call, please.
Yes.
Grantland Johnson.
On the control page.
Toby Johnson. Collin.
Here.
It's real low.
Yee.
Here.
Cox.
Here.
Castanis.
Here.
Panay.
Here.
Fletcher.
Here.
We have a quorum.
Ladies and gentlemen, we're going to move to item number 2. We'll take up item number 1, the staff status report, at the end of the meeting this afternoon in order to move along to topics where a number of you are involved. So that I'm going to call upon the franchisee licensee update. Rich?
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to welcome Supervisor Cox and Councilman Yee to our honored chambers here. This is the first time that we've had new members in quite a while. The franchisee licensee update is an opportunity for Sacramento Cable, our franchisee, and any other licensees to make a brief presentation to the Commission at each of their regular meetings. At this time, with the Chair's permission, I would recommend that Mr. Ruckert be invited to the podium to speak for our franchisee, as our franchisee.
Kim Ruckert, the General Manager of Sacramento Cable.
Thank you, Chairman. Thank you, Commission. Nice to see you.
Hi, Kim.
I'd like to take this opportunity to, one, give you a little bit of an update in 1992, our progress in 92. Two, also have an opportunity to bring some of the new commissioners up to speed on what we've done in 92, and also an opportunity to introduce Brian Gruber, who is our new Director of Marketing, and he will be giving the last quarter results and just kind of update you on where we're going in the first part of 93. First of all, we're sitting right now with 207,000 customers, of which we installed 89,000 new customers last year in 92. We disconnected 86,000 older customers. We ran approximately 72,000 service calls last year, which is down by over 50% from the year prior. We have currently 98% of all of our service calls are done within a 24-hour period, of which 2% are actually at the customer's request for a future date. We have 65 installers working in the field daily. We have 35 service technicians operating and taking care of service calls. We currently have reduced our service calls in the field by 10%. And 97% of all of our installations are done within the 4-hour designated period of time. The others are within a 3 days of ordering the date that they have designated to be installed. We have opened a total of 30 new payment centers. Every mailbox, etc., in the city is a now collection point for us and also a payment center. We have tripled the size of our lobby and the number of personnel handling payments coming through the window. We've added a $1,200,000 phone system that is now tracking both statistics for the Commission as well as for us to run the business. We have certified all of our technical personnel in CPR and defensive driving and have reduced accidents in the city of Sacramento with our employees by 55% in 1992. We have, just as a couple of updates on some of our stars that have worked for us, we had 6 employees that were accommodated by the state for saving a young man's life. If you recall back a few months back, a 13-year-old boy was attacked by a gang, and they were the people that saved the young boy from getting pulverized out in the street. Our installers also saved a elderly woman who was in a building that caught on fire. And one of our men saved the life of a man that was in an automobile accident. And in turn also, one of our engineers saved an older man's life that was on a life support system with our generator system outside his house, and kept his place powered up so that he could, frankly, survive until SMUD got the power back on. We have trained all of our family members and our employees, all of them, on safety and health, and have reduced, and if you want to know why, these are important figures, because we got to keep our employees at work so that we can serve the customer better. And in 1992, we only had 223 lost days of work, and the year before it was 1,440. So I think we've made a lot of progress in just the internal operations and taking care of our customer base. In 1993, we will begin our construction of our entire fiber optic network. We will be activating 35% of the system this year, and in 3 years it'll be entirely completed. Furthermore, the commission on February the 16th, we will be having a ribbon cutting, because the first fiber optic deployment will be active in Galt, and we will then have much clearer pictures and, of course, higher channel capacity than ever before. We will also, by the end of this month, by March 1st, we will be activating the run between our TVRO site with fiber optics to our head end, which too will improve channel capacity and clarity. The upgrade of the system will cost the company around $14 million this year, and approximately that every year for the next 3 years. The upgrade of the billing system will take place this year at a cost of about $1.6 million. This will increase speed capacity to our CSRs so they can handle transactions quicker. It will increase productivity in our fields, and also will allow us to do many things like automated check-in and automated routing, and just hopefully increase productivity in general. We will be deploying in 1993 a new scrambling system that we believe and are very confident will defeat all pirates and theft of signal in the cable plant. And we have and will be installing auto dialers to our system so that we can expedite sales, delinquent notifications, disconnect activity, and basically just give our customers a better opportunity to be communicated with. And then at this point, I would like to have an opportunity to introduce you to Brian Gruber, who is our new marketing director. He came to us from San Jose. He has a master's degree and also worked in some large systems in Albuquerque. He is also was at one time the director of marketing of C-SPAN from 1983 to 1986. And I don't know if this is a positive or a negative, but he was also an administrative assistant to a California state senator. But we're glad to have him on board.
Just don't mention the name, and then you're okay.
Absolutely.
Before you can continue, you talked about all of the things that you were doing as it relates to the addition of auto dialers. What are you doing as it relates to the cable outage, the ability of your customers to communicate with your organization about the outages which occur from time to time?
Well, the outages, obviously, we're holding at less than, I don't want to step on Brian's report, but I believe that we're sitting at an average on hold time of about 17 seconds. We employ between 86 to 100 CSRs. The auto dialer and auto response unit will allow us the opportunity that once a customer is in an outage scenario, it will create an auto dialing back into the system and allow our CSRs or a group of CSRs to call and confirm that their cable is back up. And when you have a system as wide as we are at some 5,000 miles of plant, and in any one quadrant could take down as much as 1,000 miles at a time, and some 60, 70,000 customers, we have to have the ability to get back to a large percentage of them, not all of them, though.
He wants to pull them up.
Any other questions?
Yeah, Kim,
Yes, sir.
with all the money you're spending in '93, are you going to expect another rate increase?
Probably.
Do you know how much?
No.
No.
No idea. We have to evaluate that annually, and I just could not make a commitment to the positive at this point in time.
What is the advantage of going that route with the fiber optics?
It provides, one, greater channel capacity. It provides us down the road to have the ability to digitally transport our signals, which will be higher quality. It's staging ourselves for other forms of business ventures, and also allows us the ability to have better quality and better consistency. You see, you don't have to re-amplify the signals as frequently. There's less opportunity of cable breakage. The signal transports more opportunities for compression in the future years to come, so that we'll be staged and ready to be able to provide new technology as it emerges in the technical force.
Kim, my concern is if there's added cost for other advantage than more quality images, then I'm concerned about tacking the cost onto this current subscribers because they don't benefit from these added advantages.
I am not sure I actually understand your
Well, let's
question.
say you can compress your transmission to the point where you get more transmission in the fiber optics. Are the consumers benefiting from that, or is the company benefiting from it because they can put more transmission into the same line?
I think your answer is both.
Both?
Oh, absolutely. In the future, in this decade, you're going to be talking about the capacity of some 500 plus channels.
Yeah.
The ability for instantaneous pay-per-view ability. For instance, as you may have in a hotel room where you want to watch a certain movie at a specific time. It'll give us the abilities for technologies like single order channeling, so that a person could order up ESPN, USA, Cinemax, and the off-air signals and be able to do all that. It'll give us the ability for things such as data transport, software updates to home PCs, all types of new technology.
Right.
That'll all be driven by consumer-based types needs.
But you can achieve the financing by maybe adding another level of service rather than raising the current cost.
I don't think I said here today that we aren't going to explore all avenues of the way we'll finance this. I mean, you asked me, I believe, that can we expect an increase in 1993, and my answer to you is more than likely yes.
My basic concern is not everyone needs all of these services.
And there is options such as our limited basic service that is provided to customers that do not have full basic and can't afford it, and for $10 they could have limited basic service. So there is an escape for them.
Okay.
Chairman?
Other questions?
I have a question.
Yes. Terry?
Two issues, Kim. The first is I have noticed in some neighborhoods where some of the pedestals have been knocked down, and I don't know if your service representatives normally write those and correct them, or they have to be called in, but I do see them on occasion, and I just draw that to your attention. Hopefully that you would, I would think that it have to be repaired.
It does.
But I do observe that, and that's just for your information.
Thank you.
The second point I want to make is to ask you specifically about Channel 2. There was discussion about what programming would be on that channel, and the interest in some community groups in this city with programming from San Francisco. I'm afraid I don't get time to watch Channel 2. Could you just brief us where we are on that?
Sure. We are currently sharing that channel with KTSF, which is the station out of San Francisco that provides various foreign language and specifically Chinese language programming and carries a very, very good news service for these people. The rest of the time it carries 16 languages from all over the world, and it is based in a service called the International Channel. And we basically allocate the entire rest of the day, with the exception of approximately 3 to 4 hours for KTSF. The rest of the day, 24 hours a day, not 12 hours a day, is the International Channel programming. And it covers everything from French programming to Italian, Greek, I believe they even have German, and various programs like that, all in their language, and in many cases subtitled also. Yeah. It is well received, but there are many people that, as you can imagine, taking a 12-hour all Asian 12 hours of Asian network and Japanese and Chinese primarily in the language, they frankly lost a lot of programming, but somebody had to lose programming in order for our entire community to have a more diverse language base. So that's why we are going to pursue and continue using the International Channel, and hopefully someday KTSF and International Channel will be able to merge and improve their programming.
Thank you.
Thank you, too.
Any other questions? Please present Mr. Gruber.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Kim. Mr. Chairman, Commissioners, Cindy Simonson is a hard act to follow, and I'm relatively new in the role, so if I can answer any questions that might take a day or two more, then she would be able to answer them to you with. Please let me know. I'd like to give you a brief update on some customer service standards, things that we're doing in the system, as well as things that we're doing in the community and in marketing. First of all, we believe we are in compliance with all Cable Commission regulations, all customer service standards, and we forwarded a 15-day report to Mr. Esposto, which we discussed earlier today. In terms of our complaint status, for the entire year of 1992, we had 576 complaints that were cleared. 427 of those were cleared in less than 5 days. According to my latest information, we have 9 total pending complaints. In our customer service department, we have 79 CSRs, and according to some analysis we recently did, our average speed of answer in 1992 came down dramatically from 1991. We're compiling that information now, and we'll get it over to Rich as soon as we have some analysis on that, but as of this morning, that's the information that we had. In terms of our business hours, we are now open from 7 a.m. to midnight on the telephone. We're open 7 days a week, including our lobby. We're currently evaluating some opportunities to expand our customer service, including for the first time providing Sunday installations, and we expect to roll out a Sunday installation program soon, as well as some flexible shifts earlier and later in the day during weekdays. A major focus for us is in keeping our customers better performed. We do a great job of telling people when there are specials, but we think we could do a much better job of talking to our customers on an ongoing basis. And so hopefully, since all of you get a cable bill every month in the mail, you've seen our newsletters. We've given some copies up front there with our January and February one. Each month now we're going to some expense to provide a full-color monthly newsletter in the bill to each of our customers to talk about what we're doing with technology, service, provide all the telephone numbers, hours, a complete up-to-date channel lineup, pay-per-view information, how to find out what's on, etc. And while it's great from a marketing point of view, our customers have received it very positively from a customer service point of view, and we hope to continue that on a permanent basis. As a matter of fact, in December, when we rolled it out for the first time, we included in it the entire disclosure form, and I think it was a more colorful, effective way of providing the disclosure than what we have in the past. In addition to that, a couple of other things from a marketing perspective. We are going to, in March, be rolling out a video version of the newsletter where every month we will do a 30-minute show, talk to our customers with our employees as talent, tell our customers what we're doing in the city, in the system, and how we are working to serve them. We also, in the fall, as you may know, and this gave us a little bump in our customer service wait times because we rolled out a new packaging programming allowing customers to receive services at lower prices. That was very well received. We've sold since the fall over 70,000 value packs. All of those customers are members of our new home theater club where we're currently holding sweepstakes with trips to Africa and the Amazon and Australia. And after many years of giving away services to new customers, our customers kept asking us, when are you going to do something for us? We're now doing with our home theater club a lot of services like that for them. On the community service front, a few things. We're involved in many, many organizations, and I won't go through a whole laundry list for you, but we had a couple of very successful promotions in the fourth quarter. For every installation that we did in the fourth quarter, we made a contribution to the Sacramento Ballet, raising over $20,000 to the Sacramento Ballet. All of our December installs were offered an opportunity to save $40 on installation if they gave us a toy for a tot as part of the Marines Toys for Tots program. We estimate that we collected approximately 10,000 toys. We're working now with the Sacramento Area Literacy Coalition with our new service, the Learning Channel, on some literacy programs, including a library program, and the Learning Channel is going to be funding programs like that this year with us. Our other new service, Court TV, which someone asked me about earlier when I came into the chambers, is a popular new service, and two things that we agreed to when we launched the service was, one, we're going to do a luncheon with Fred Graham, who's their major on-air talent, co-sponsored by a local law school and the State Bar Association on legal issues. They're also going to do their fourth national town meeting on legal issues, and it's going to be out of Sacramento, and we're currently working with them to find an issue of interest to Sacramento's that'll be the town meeting will be done here and telecast nationally on Court TV. Finally, we introduced an exciting new service, the Sci-Fi Channel, which was our most demanded service, and at the Star Trek convention, which was quite an unusual experience for me, January 2nd and 3rd, Shirley and I attended that, and we brought a virtual reality booth in, and Mr. Chairman will remember that experience, I hope, and there was a lot of fun.
What did they do, beam you up?
They put me in a machine that seemed very so calm. We were in a ring, and then they put a helmet on your head, and you're looking at two TV screens instead of outside, and then they fly you off into outer space somewhere.
I'm glad you're back, Mr. Chairman.
Unfortunately for the rest of you, I returned.
Well, that service has been very well received. And finally, we are now working with a number of local organizations to sponsor, along with DMX, a series of concerts. Last year we did the Blues Festival. We hope to do that again, along with the Jazz Jubilee, concerts in the park, and other local concerts. All kinds of other things we're doing, but I'm not going to bore you with much more. If I can provide any answers for you or answer any questions, I'd be pleased to do so. And if there's anything that was not complete today that I can help you with in terms of providing additional documentation or information, please call on me.
Any questions?
No, I guess, and I should have asked Kim because Terry brought it up too. In terms of is a major fundraiser by the International Channel and KTSF or whatever the call letters were, is that also in the works?
Well, as part of our negotiations with KTSF, they committed to buying advertising in local and regional Asian publications, which they have not done to date, and we're having lunch with them on Tuesday. They also agreed to provide funding for local community programs. I believe they have supported one or two local fundraisers to a very limited degree, and we are supporting ourselves, several local organizations, ethnic organizations, with programming on that channel that benefit from programming on that channel. So in terms of what KTSF has done, they haven't done anything major in the advertising or community support area, as they committed to, and we're meeting with them on Tuesday to
Okay,
try to
good.
address that.
So that would help. And Kim, if you want to come up too, I know also that we locally had said we would try to do something about some sort of local advisory group, and I feel remiss because we were going to try to get together and along with others maybe come up with some names, and so I feel badly that didn't happen. But I'm partly responsible for that too, I think. Yeah, but I'm concerned because we obviously have a real need in this community, expressed by many different language-speaking groups, for more language programming, whether it's International Channel or KTSF. There's obviously interest out there to see some programs in languages other than English or Spanish, which are the two that are available, to everybody. And I don't know what kind of progress we'll be able to make on that. But.
Well, actually, from the International Channel point of view, on the fundraising, there was very specific dollars, and they are going to be spent. And of course, we agreed that we would spend them in a 12-month period of time from that point. The difference is, and KTSF has some agreement, as Brian said, to do the same. KTSF has had no involvement at all in the community. The International Channel has, and as far as the question about the forming of a group of multilingual advisors, we have started to go forward with that. We are going to take recommendations, and one of which Victor Yee is speaking to us about sitting on this board. We are going to look at various other people within the community that not only represent, we want a representation from each culture. We're not interested in 6 Asian and 1 Hispanic and 1 French. We want to cover all the different languages that are carried in the community with representation based on the amount of representation.
Well, there might be others that have been expressed, to others, but I know that the community. I've gone to some events within the Italian group,
yes,
and obviously they're interested in some Italian language programming more
right.
than what's available. There was interest expressed in Greek language programming,
right.
and also Portuguese, since there's a lot of Portuguese-speaking people here also. And I think it's not so much that they want whole channels or anything. They just want that opportunity. Plus, I think people who are taking language courses in the different universities and that are being offered see it as a great opportunity to hone up on some language skills.
Mm-hmm.
And I think, it was well expressed, Jimmy, the Cantonese-speaking peoples would Cantonese, and I'm sure there's other people who are taking Mandarin who really want to see Mandarin programming too. And so there's a big demand for language programming out there.
Well, the recommendation that we came in is that that Sacramento Cable have 1 seat, the International Channel has another seat, and then each one of the languages that are represented in the channels would have an opportunity to voice their position and opinion as to the programming. But don't let me mislead you. There is no doubt that the International Channel is the channel, and the purpose of this, and there won't be any changes unless the International Channel wants to change. And so this gives us the forum for our community to speak directly to the president of the International Channel and to Sacramento Cable and express their concerns, so that there is a way of saying we need more of this type of programming. And it is ultimately, we will not change, and we have a contract to continue for a long period of time with the International Channel. They are the service that we will use, but I believe and I am confident that George Leitner, the president of that company, will listen to our needs and help us provide the type of programming to this community that the community needs.
So eventually, as you get that great fiber optic system going and the ability to provide more and more, I think it's important that, that more and more isn't just more and more of the same. Sometimes you can flip through every channel and it's just nothing. And it's important that there really be, and I know that you want, for the success of your company, want to go and look at what the community really wants, because these are the people you have to sell your system to.
Well, there's no doubt that our total concern here is, obviously we wouldn't be a business if people don't subscribe. And so therefore, whatever the community is going to tell us and are going to support in dollars to promote a service, we're going to carry those services because it's going to create more value to this community, and more value to the community, and more value to our service, and hopefully more profitability.
Other questions?
Yeah, Kim?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. This question on the advisory board, as far as selection of the nominees or persons, is it possible for me to sit down with you and go over some of them?
Sure.
What
As a matter of fact, that's where we're headed with this, and that's why Chairman Collins said that. We want your input, and we're just trying to make sure that it is a fair and partial representation of our community that sits on this advisory board that will advise Mr. Leitner.
Yeah, Isla's been involved, and I have. And I try to look at it from a third unbiased person's perspective, and I could see where if you select a particular person, it could be on one side or the other.
Sure.
I'd like some input in trying to get someone that's really middle of the road.
We'd be happy to listen to your input.
Okay.
Brian, do you have any further comments for us?
No, thank you very much for giving me the opportunity to speak.
Well, I know you'll be back.
Thank you, sir.
Thanks for your commentary and the information. Richard Houghton expressed a desire to speak under item number 2. Do you wish to do that?
Yes.
Okay, we'll pass then at this moment. Thank you. Is there any further comment to be made under item number 2? We'll move to item number 3, a notice public hearing, cable television license application for Cable America. Staff, I turn to you, Rich.
Mr. Chairman, members, Cable America has filed the appropriate material documentation for a second cable television license. If you recall, a license was approved in November for an area south central to the county, which is within the Sacramento cable television license area, but in an area not currently wired. The application before you today, the license application before you today, is for the general area we would call Rancho Cordova. It is an area that Sacramento Cable has currently wired and is serving. This is the first time you've addressed an issue such as this. I can tell you that the cable television licensing ordinance prescribes 4 criteria, basically makes a ministerial action for approving a cable television license. Those criteria are a name of the entity, appropriate insurance, appropriate bonding, and a meets and bounds or map describing the license area. Cable America has met those, and under the ordinance, you would be obliged to award the license. There is a letter from Sacramento Cable today that I'd like to have Brent address that was received about an hour ago on the application of a section of state code to our licensing ordinance. And Brent?
You want to do that now?
Yeah.
Mr. Chairman and members, apparently a letter has been directed to you. I assume you have it from one Penny Costa with the Los Angeles office of Baker and Hostetler, in which she raises questions
I don't have it.
as to whether or not your ordinance applies. Did you receive that? I guess it's just being passed out to you now. We received ours a few minutes before the meeting, but in fairness, I will tell you that I spoke with attorneys Flink and Howard yesterday, to which they conveyed much the same position. The question which they raise is, collectively, Baker and Hostetler raises, is whether or not your commission's ordinance has given due consideration to the provisions of 53066.3D of the Government Code of California. And Ms. Costa argues that a particular interpretation should be applied. I want to assure you of a couple of things, and I want to take just a moment because I know some of your members are new to the area of cable television. Your licensing ordinance, you will recall, if you served on the commission for some time, was adopted as a result of a tumultuous procedure during which time we were involved in the federal court. At the time of its adoption, your licensing ordinance was adopted by the federal court as consistent with our constitutional obligations relative to competition. in the cable context. Subsequently, that matter was dismissed when we settled the case, but nonetheless, in a very unusual circumstance, this particular ordinance was reviewed by the local district federal court. Secondly, Ms. Costa, who accurately quotes the statute on the second page of her letter at the top, makes what we consider to be an unjustified assumption, which has to do with the application of the phrase, the same geographical area. In her letter, she assumes that any applicant must serve the same geographical area that the Scripps Howard franchisee serves. We think that's unjustified. In fact, if you were to construe the statute and look for a reference to the same area, the only prior mention of the word area is the area in which the applicant seeks to obtain the right to serve. So we read that statute, and there is no case law. There have been no judicial interpretations of this section. We read this as wholly consistent with your licensing ordinance, which requires merely that the two-pronged test, the PEG access requirement and the uniform and universal service requirement, both of which are contained in your licensing ordinance, are applicable to the license area, not to the franchisee's whole franchise area. So similarly, there's no obligation that any applicant build the entire area of the Scripps Howard system. That is the key assumption of the argument which Baker and Hostetler raises. Accordingly, we conclude that your licensing ordinance does now and has continued to comply with applicable state and federal law, which raises yet one final point, and that is, as you are all aware, there was a new Cable Act enacted last fall by the United States Congress, and it involves a peculiar and particular emphasis on increased competition. We also think that the enactment of this new federal statute may affect the continued vitality of this particular state law section. But in any event, it would be our advice that your licensing ordinance properly complies with all applicable state and federal law, as well as the appropriate constitutional provisions, that you, by your statute, have no discretionary authority, nor may you, or should you, in our view, attempt to add additional conditions. Your licensing ordinance itself does consider the factors that Ms. Costa raises, and in our view, you should proceed toward the license. Thank you.
Do you have any question for Mr. Blair before I move forward?
A representative from Cable America is here today to address your questions if you have any. That's Mr.
We'll
Houghton.
do that at this time then. Going forward, Richard Houghton.
Mr. Chairman, members of the Commission, happy to see you again here. What I'd like to let you know is again, as Mr. Espasto said, we were here November 4th requesting an Area 4 license, which we were awarded at that time. An area in the county south of Mather Air Force Base where no service was being provided. And again, part of our logic at that time was because Mather Air Force Base is going away. We have an operating facility here and a vested interest, and we wanted to keep that in operation and going. Since that time, the marketplace has changed somewhat, and with our market evaluations and economic feasibility studies, what we've done is come back and ask for an area that is more within the immediate bounds of where we presently operate. It's not to eliminate the previous area. We're still going to serve that, but now what we'd like to do is really start right from the get-go, right from the beginning of where we serve, and build out to that area instead of bypassing all the homes in the immediate area, which we had intended to do originally. The reason for the change, again, is because of our market evaluations and our economic feasibility studies. What you're seeing actually is some positive effects from competition already. The change in the marketplace is the area that we were going to serve that was not served previously is now being built by your incumbent licensee, and that's what competition has done, and that's what's changed the marketplace for us. So now what we're asking is that we be able to start serving immediately from our existing head end, the residents there, and work our way on out instead of bypassing them as we were going to do before. So what we're asking for is a larger area and more people to serve, and you're going to see the effects of competition even sooner than was originally anticipated from our original request.
Question to Mr. Houghton.
I have a question, Mr. Houghton. I'm assuming that this will be an aerial or above ground system only, or will you be trenching the streets? What are you going to be doing?
There will be both. Where the aerial facilities exist, that's what we'll be doing, obviously, and where it's underground, it'll be underground facilities.
Will you, does our ordinance, maybe this is a question for staff, will our ordinance provide for the sharing of the trenching at all or not? Will it be a separate trench?
Well, there is no open trench, so there wouldn't be any sharing. There would be, it only requires them to go underground where it's underground and so forth, but as far as where they place it is up to the respective directors of public works. It may be, with past experience, that they may not want them digging in the same spot in the pavement, having to do with the integrity of the pavement, but that's up to the directors of public works.
So if there's already a cut in the street and cable laid by Sacramento Cable, they can come right next to it and trench and lay their own cable. Is that correct?
Subject to the discretion of the directors of public works, yes.
How much of your plant will be aerial and how much will be underground?
In these areas here, the new area that we're requesting will probably be an area of about 60-65% aerial, 30 to 35% underground. In the area that we had requested in November, or were given in November, it was probably, matter of fact, most of it was going to be aerial, and in the new developed areas will be underground. In those cases, to respond to the trenching question, we'd be going into the joint trenches with the developers as they develop, so that's something that's shared between everyone.
Right.
Most of the area in the original license, and a lot of this in the new license, are undeveloped areas at this time, and as they develop, everyone will be attached or joining in the joint trench at the same time.
Where's your head end to be?
Our head end is located directly north of Mather Air Force Base. It's at 10398 Rockingham Drive.
Across the street? From
Directly, right across the fence. We're just on the outside of the fence from being on the base proper.
Thank you. Is there further
I have
comment?
a question of staff. The same economic considerations for Cable America as for the existing cable provider?
The economic considerations in terms of community benefits?
Fee that's received by the...
In actuality, because of the settlement with Sacramento Cable Television in 1988, the new licensor, a licensee, pays a 5% gross revenue fee, whereas Sac Cable pays about a 2.5% gross revenue fee. So on a percentage basis, the economic aspect is better with a licensee.
It would be better with respect to Cable America?
No.
That's
Better with respect to the commission. What he's saying is that this licensee is going to be paying a higher percentage of gross revenues than our existing
that's what I thought he was
franchisee.
saying.
Because of the pre-existing settlement.
Thank you.
Mr. Houghton, would you stand by, and I'll now open the public hearing on the cable television license application for Cable America. Okay. I have a request from Mr. Ruckert to speak to this topic.
I really have very little to say because Brent articulated it so well, but my recommendation would be to at least review and make sure that after the review of the California code that that they are in compliance, and basically that would be our extent. And if we would wish that you would not grant them a license until you've had that opportunity to review. And furthermore, since it came up earlier, the building in the area south of Mather is not a result of competition. It has, if permits were pulled, they've been pulled for almost a year and a half. The product was acquired the beginning and the end of last year. That it takes approximately a year to do all the permitting and putting together all the finances and all the various things and get the acquisition of all the materials to build. And it has been scheduled for a 1992 and 93 construction. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman Kim, to bring this into perspective, I think for the new members, if we can try, the 1988 settlement with Sacramento Cable made significant changes to the franchisee to, in my mind at that time, and in the Commission's mind, I believe, to promote a policy of competition. Some of the changes that were made, and correct me if I'm wrong, Kim, but the franchise originally required $1.25 per month per subscriber for community programming contributions, whatever. Those are no longer required. There was an institutional network that was negotiated out of the franchise. the franchise was extended to 2023 as part of that settlement, right? And those, so there has been a conscious policy in developing the licensing ordinance or implementing the licensing ordinance to already have leveled the playing field, and you've already considered the issues that are being raised today. That's why staff and your council are comfortable in recommending that you go forward with the licensing approval under the ordinance as prescribed. Thanks, ladies.
I don't have any comment.
I have a question for you, Kim.
Yes, sir.
Is SAC Cable presently on course to provide competitive offers in that same area?
We are, the area that you're licensing or are considering licensing, we're already constructed. We serve those customers.
Oh, you already serve?
Yes.
Okay.
What I was referring to is the previous license that was granted to an area that there are a few homes, and it is south of the base area, not this area that you're looking at today.
I'll move, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Kim.
Thank you.
Is there any other person to speak on this issue under the title of public hearings? Then I declare the public hearing closed. It's open for discussion and action now at the commission level.
I think Josh made the motion to adopt the resolution. I will second it.
It has been moved and seconded to adopt the resolution for cable television license for Cable America. Will the clerk please call the roll?
Grantland Johnson. Toby Johnson.
Yes.
Collin.
Yes.
Yee.
Aye.
Cox.
Aye.
Castanis.
Aye.
Panay.
Aye.
Fletcher.
Aye.
Motion carries.
We now move to item number 4, plan for assigning community programming, public access resources, request for proposals. Before opening this for commentary, I wish to say that the larger hearing on this will occur at our March meeting. This is still in the planning stage. It is still open to amendment. It has just been presented by staff to members of the commission about the 21st of the month in response to instructions given in December, a consensus of the commission to take this approach in reviewing how funds shall be used beyond June 30th of 1993. So today, for those of you speaking out front, we would say make your remarks pointed, using brevity as a kind of guide, though I don't wish to cut anybody off. I'm going to call on staff first, and then we'll call upon Michael for a presentation as the president of the Board of Access, and we'll take it from there under that heading. Staff?
Mr. Chairman, 2 quick points before you open this for open discussion. One, this was in response to your request from December. I need to clarify that the intent of the RFP as drafted was to open competition to any and all comers, and no one, access included, was designed to be precluded from competing. There is some language there that references that was not an intent. Basically, the idea of open competition was so obvious to me, I didn't catch that in the wording syntax. From a policy perspective, what this is looking at the balance between open competition and sole source bidding for major procurements. In a county, in your county or your city, a contract of this size, a services contract of this size, would be by ordinance put out to bid. And in fact, only a 1-year bid could be awarded with the option of 2 one-year renewals is the most under county policy you could do now. So before you is a response to your request for a public process to consider this. We have not had in-depth discussions. The public process that I concluded was the best response to you is one based on competition and a typical procurement RFP. With that, I'd be happy to be here all afternoon and answer whatever questions you have.
We'll open it here at the commission level. Any comments you wish to make before we go to public hearing?
I assume that the purpose of the hearing is to make comments on the draft that we have.
That's correct.
Okay.
I'll now open the public hearing. First speaker is Michael Hayward, and he may intermix comments on both 4 and 5 in the interests of saving time. Michael, mic is yours. one mic to another.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. For the record, my name is Michael Hayward, and I am the chairman of Access Sacramento Board of Directors. I'd like to thank you for this chance to address the commission on several matters which are of concern both to you on the commission and to us at Sacramento. And I will cover both items 4 and 5. The first matter I'd like to report on is the makeup of our board. Recently, those members who have missed 3 consecutive meetings were sent letters which asked if they had conflicts of time which prevented them from attending our monthly board meetings. And as a result of this correspondence, a number of resignations with regrets were received. We now have 8 vacancies, and this gives us an opportunity to make some real changes. It's our intention to appoint a blue ribbon nominating committee of prominent citizens to help us obtain members who will represent the best that our community has to offer, so that any reservations that some of you may have about the broad makeup of our board will be put to rest. Secondly, last fall, when questions about the taste of several programs were raised by some of you, by the management of Sacramento Cable, and by a few members of the cable audience, our board met this challenge by calling upon a task force of distinguished members of our community to help us examine these issues. I know that you will want to join me in thanking them for volunteering much time and effort and competent skill in performing such a public service. Former Mayor Ann Rudin, who chaired the group, former Mayor Burnett Miller, and Ramsey Elliott, who are both here in the audience today, Judge Leonard Friedman, Professor Brian Landsberg, and the Reverend Jack Wiley. Their recommendations are before you, as is the covering letter from Ann Rudin, with 2 references that deserve your attention. First of all, she makes the point that their overriding concern for the future was to support the cause of intellectual freedom and to protect the right of expression for the widest possible range of Sacramentans. Secondly, that the task force stands ready to assist our board again in the spring, after the Federal Communications Commission is expected to issue its rulemaking on these very subjects. Meantime, our board has followed the advice of the task force and also our attorney in a manner which significantly addresses your concerns. By establishing a 24-hour ban on indecent programming for Channel 17, we are in effect no longer treating it as a public forum. As a consequence, the board will take an even more active and vigilant role in shaping the kind of programming that Sacramentans will see on Channel 17. Channel 18 would constitute our first-come, first-serve public forum channel as envisaged in the new draft agreement, but with additional safeguards: a 24-hour ban on obscenity, the safe harbor late time slot for adult programming, and concurrent screening to guard against anything slipping between the cracks. Now, regarding the proposed RFP process, I note that the decision was made in your December executive session when emotions ran rather high over the issues that we have since referred to the task force. I think we have taken steps to solve that problem. We are revising our board makeup and assuming, as a board, the positive direction of Channel 17's program content so that we can provide the kind of programming our community wants to hear and see. I would ask that you consider these steps that we have taken and steps that we are prepared to take in order to correct any shortcomings that you perceive. Before you proceed with the RFP proposal, please put the whole picture into some perspective. Consider the fact that Access Sacramento has been named by its nationwide peers as the finest such operation in the United States for 2 out of the past 3 years, with many of our programs taking first place awards in blind screenings. Sacramento has also been selected as the site for next year's National Access Conference, which would bring over 1,000 participants here with its attendant publicity and hard cash to our beleaguered community. I would appeal to you not to single out Access Sacramento among all the grantees for an RFP process, which will certainly involve you and your staff in many hours of development and evaluation, and perhaps in the end, put the community back to where it was 6 years ago when you selected us in the first place. We've shown you our willingness and our ability to adapt and to compromise. I ask that you also compromise on the RFP proposal and give us 1 year to prove that we can respond to your needs and offer our community broad and excellent programming. Chairman Fletcher has kindly agreed to meet with me on Monday for a private talk. I would like to take his advice, and I would appreciate it if you too would convey to Chairman Fletcher any thoughts that you have on how we might improve our record. What I've said so far has the general approval of our board. What I want to conclude with has not been discussed with our board, nor with anybody else either in this room or out of this room. And that's a personal note. I took on the chairmanship of Access Sacramento in order to try to lend some continuity and stability and direction in a very difficult period that we've gone through. I also take personal responsibility for any decision taken by us during this time. I would willingly step down from the chair and even resign from the board if it will help the commission to restore its confidence in what I truly believe is a fine organization and one that I've been very proud to serve. Thank you.
Thank you, Mike. Craig Powell.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Members, you'll excuse my nasal tone. I'm getting over, I think, the same head cold that the chairman has been suffering from. I'm here to, first of all, for the record, I'm with the law firm of Dentino, Pallin, DeGiusto, who serves as attorneys for Access Sacramento, and I'm here just to amplify some of the thoughts of Mr. Hayward. And that is to provide a little bit more background material about Access Sacramento, particularly for our newer members of our commission. In addition to having been recognized in 2 of the last 3 years as the finest organization of its kind in the nation, it also has the lowest cost per hour of original programming of any public access operation in the country. In terms of quantity of programming, it has broken records each year in the quantity of original hours of programming that they have produced. In terms of diversity, I don't think there's anybody in this room who could challenge the diversity of programming and the variety of programming that Access Sacramento has experienced. When problems have arisen, Access Sacramento has shown that it responds, and it responds timely. When the disputes arose at the November Commission meeting regarding the content of programming on Channel 17 and Channel 18, Access responded vigilantly. It did 2 things. It adopted interim programming rules that immediately went into effect, that adopted screening of programming in advance, adopted 24-hour ban on indecent programming on Channel 17, and adopted a late-night time channeling for adult-oriented programming on Channel 18. It also dropped its live radio program, which was shown previously over the video channel, which had been the source of problems. In addition, it formed the task force that Mr. Hayward had alluded to, a task force that was formed because there was a conundrum. There was a difference of legal opinion between myself and your council. And in good faith, as our chairman has asked us all to move with, we have formed a task force made up of prominent Sacramentans and prominent scholars to break the logjam on these disputes over these legal issues. They've come back with a report and recommendations, and that is before you, and those recommendations have been adopted by the Board of Access Sacramento. As a matter of fact, the Board of Access Sacramento has gone even further and adopted sterner measures than what the task force had recommended. The task force had recommended the dispensing of any pre-screening. We have elected to continue concurrent screening because we think it's important to the public. With regard to where we stand in the RFP process, I think any dispassionate observer of the situation could see that Access Sacramento has been a singular success story for Sacramento County. I don't think we can doubt that. I think whenever problems have arisen, you've seen them act vigilantly to resolve them. And to the extent that you address problems to them, and I encourage all the members to communicate those to your chair so that in his private discussions with Mr. Hayward, we can address those. You will find that we will resolve them, and we will go all out, and we are fully committed to resolve any and all problems you identify. I would encourage you to not single out Access Sacramento for an RFP process. I would encourage you instead to consider perhaps a new contract with a shorter term if you would like to have a probationary period, if you will. And this is a matter we've talked about with some of you on a one-on-one basis. And with that, I conclude my remarks. If there are not any questions, thank you.
Thank you. Now, from this point forward, we'll be placing a 3-minute time limit on speakers' presentations, and cards will be raised here to indicate the time as it expires. I'd like to call upon Janet Gross.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. I am here this afternoon to encourage you to put out the request for proposals. And I base this mostly on the recommendations made by the task force because I'm still not happy with what I'm seeing. I'll go through them one by one. I assume you all have a copy of them. You've gotten a copy of the task force report?
Yes.
Okay. Number 1, prohibition of sexually explicit programming. They agreed to abide by the law set up by the new Federal Cable Act. But that Cable Act, we still don't have those guidelines. So there's a period of time here where we have no rules or regulations in effect. I'm not happy with the way they put in, although the constitutionality of this section has not been tested, because to me that speaks of a bad attitude, as if they're not going to accept it once it does come down. The second recommendation, where they say to permit viewers access to community expression in all its diversity, including non-orthodox, unconventional material without censorship. The task force also recognizes that censorship and pre-screening are undesirable, that few access managers resort to this. I'm really happy to hear today that they are going to continue pre-screening. I didn't know that the board had gone against what the task force recommended. As far as
I don't think that's pre-screening. It's called concurrent screening. I assume that means someone's going to be watching the program as it goes out. There's no pre-screening.
He said pre-screening.
I heard him say pre-screening.
I heard him say concurrent screening, so better come up and...
If I can clarify, the task force has recommended that no such pre-screening or concurrent screening be conducted. And we are continuing the concurrent screening that was enacted as part of our interim guidelines.
All right, see, no pre-screening.
So it's concurrent screening. Okay, well, I'm not as happy about that. Non-orthodox, unconventional material without censorship. That line there is a key to some of the things that are going on the channel that I'm not happy with. The 2 things in Dinosaurs that I was offended by were the rape scene, where the woman was brutally beaten and raped, and also the homosexual lovemaking. I don't think that we should have homosexuals on TV making love. I don't think that public access should be having any kind of sexually explicit material. Can I have a little bit more time because Mr. Powell did come up?
Yes, you're granted 1 more minute.
Thank you. Mr. Cooper, every time that I spoke to him, never saw anything wrong with what was in Dinosaurs. He seems to think that if you have all of the actions and all the sounds, but you show only the waist up, that that's not being sexually explicit. To me, that's sexually explicit, and it doesn't belong on TV that's paid for by public funding. He never saw anything obscene about Dinosaurs, nor did Mr. Powell. They said that that did not fall within the guidelines of obscenity. When a woman is brutally beaten, she's raped, and you see the man's bare bottom when this is happening, that's obscene. That, I don't see how they can think that that is not obscene. I question their ability to run this station when they're saying things like this. On the day after your last Cable Commission meeting, I turned the TV on again, channel 18. Mr. Fletcher, I won't say what they said. I know I told you over the phone. I can see you.
I think you'll have to summarize. You
okay,
have
there was a public service announcement but done by some lesbians showing how to use a condom to make a mouth dam to avoid getting AIDS, and they used some very vulgar gutter language in their description of it.
Come back in March and extend your remarks, would you please?
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, if I may, I'm a little bit concerned that the record may be confused, and I think it started with, not Ms. Gross particularly, it started with Mr. Hayward's comment, echoed by Mr. Powell, that your commission had expressed concerns regarding the content of programming. I've attended every one of your commission sessions, and my recollection is the commission has never expressed such concerns, nor, and I think Ms. Gross should be aware, does the commission have the power to address the programming issues that the last several speakers have been speaking to. So this is not something that's within the scope of your commission. Your commission rather addressed issues of accountability and not issues of programming content. And I wouldn't want the record, if this were to go forward, to be confused with references to the commission's concerns about programming. I've heard none, and I've listened carefully for that. And I just want to make sure the record is clear. It may help some of the future speakers if they know they really don't have to address programming content. That's not what your commission has been doing.
Yeah, I think that I thought we'd made that clear at the last meeting, that what we were more concerned about was that these are cable television subscriber monies that are being allocated by this commission, and that I think the commission has a responsibility for the accountability of the people who operate those cable channels, the ones that this commission has responsibility for. And obviously, an RFP is one way to get back in written form how anyone, access included, is really going to address those accountability issues, which involve responding to the community, the type of programming that the community would like to see. How are they going to do that? How are they going to assure some, in the way that they bring some quality to the community in the terms of programming that people are wanting whoever's operating the channels to bring to the community. What's their board going to be like? How are they going to be responsive and accountable, not only to the community but to this commission? We all know that the money's going to be short, and it's a big responsibility to have the responsibility to hand money over to groups to take control of those channels.
Thank you. We'll now move to John Zacharias. And I'll call one ahead to be right up front to begin. Dory Steinman will be following John.
I'm John Zacharias. I am president of the Visual and Performing Arts Foundation. I believe the commission received a letter from our foundation that we sent earlier this month. And I'd like to read portions of that letter. The Visual and Performing Arts Foundation would like to urge the continued support of Sacramento's two public access cable channels, Channel 17 and Channel 18, which are run by Access Sacramento. The Visual and Performing Arts Foundation is a nonprofit foundation set up to foster arts and education in the Sacramento area. We hold close ties with the Visual and Performing Arts Magnet Program at Sacramento High School. One of the things that I think, in looking at Access Sacramento, we see a station that has certainly done the things that it needs to do to bring public access to the city and county of Sacramento. Their track record is great when you really look at it. They've provided low-cost instruction through the help of the community college system in cable programming. They have many, many hours of volunteers producing programs. The quality of programs has gradually increased on that station over the years. And the diversity, I don't think you could argue about the diversity that the station gives. One of the comments that Mrs. Collin had made earlier concerned the foreign language that was on Channel 2. I think you should look at some of the programming on Channel 17. There has been foreign language programs by diverse communities on that station. The Filipino community has a regular program each week, or I believe it's every 2 weeks. There are many other stations, many other programs on that station. Plus, this station has been recognized 2 years out of the last 3 years as the best public access station in the nation. Now that's something Sacramento should be proud of. And I would urge you to follow the recommendations of Mr. Hayward and Mr. Powell to withhold submitting this RFP at this particular point, give Access Sacramento the year's probation, which in many respects I don't think you really need. I think the station is already performing admirably. But in case there are concerns, this gives you a chance, it gives a chance for those concerns to be addressed. And please, let's continue this very, very important programming here in Sacramento. Thank you.
Thank you. Dory Steinman and Dr. Calhoun to follow.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and members of the Commission. I'm going to be retiring from Cosumnes River College in May and moving down to the Santa Cruz area, and I was going to use Access Sacramento as an example of a well-run community access station. They're just going to be starting one down there, and I thought I'd take as much expertise as I could with me. I've been an instructor at Cosumnes for 23 years, and along with Ron Cooper and Bob Wyman, developed the classes taught at Access Sacramento for the people in the community to learn to produce cable programming. At the present time, the classes are being taught by professionals, people in the field, and they've served to educate hundreds of people here in Sacramento County beautifully in all aspects of television. And because of this excellent training, they've won many, many national awards, as you've heard today. They've done an outstanding job, in my opinion, and I urge you to allow them to continue. Thank you.
Thank you. Dr. Calhoun? Francis Gracechild to follow.
Mr. Chairman, fellow board members, I deem it a privilege and a pleasure to address such a highly esteemed body. I'm the executive producer for the award-winning Joy Caravan gospel music program, as well as Sports World, which addresses high school football. I am one of 700 community producers that owe a great deal to Access Sacramento. Access Sacramento, in my estimation, has brought the community together because you have people coming from all walks of life, ethnic backgrounds, along the economic strata, working together behind the scenes that you don't see that hasn't happened before. Access Sacramento is a great station. Ron Cooper is a great man. Ron Cooper has galvanized, as it were, the crews, the community, and brought them all together. As an African American, Access Sacramento has opened doors to me that heretofore weren't open. On the award-winning Joy Caravan, we have gospel music, which is preserving an art form. We also deal with current events and timely events for the community. Sports World deals with the best in high school football. We've had the occasion to deal with Grant Union High School, which in my estimation is oversaturated with negative press. So I go out of my way to bring about some positive press to Grant Union High School. Example of two of the shows that we did. 4 years ago, Grant Union High School won the section championship in baseball after we had came out and aired the programs. And I think that there's a direct link between these students, athletes, seeing themselves in a positive role model and performing. This year, the Grant Union High School football team won the section championship and also went on to win the Northern California championship, which is a share of the state title. This was done after we were able to go out, interview players, interview coaches, halftime performance on the band. There isn't a day that goes by, whether I'm out marketing or downtown, where somebody in the community doesn't stop me and say, hey, I saw your program. And they ask me, and I have to say, which one? So I submit to you, in closing, that Access Sacramento in 1992 had some 3,000 hours of programming, and there's a question about maybe a couple hours. In my estimation, that's no contest. Sacramento, Access Sacramento is a great program. It's a great station. And I would submit in closing that Dr. Martin Luther King had a dream. The 700 community producers at Access Sacramento have a dream. Please, please, I submit to you, let the dream continue.
Thank you. Frances Grace Child, to be followed by Claudia Taylor.
Okay, we can bring it down a little bit.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. I, too, have that nasal voice with the questionable virus. The first thing I want to tell you is the hat I wear today for you is two. One, I also am on the board of directors of the Visual and Performing Arts Foundation here in Sacramento, and I'm also representing Resources for Independent Living. I'm their executive director for Sacramentans with Disabilities. In both respects, we've been the very fortunate recipients of the creativity and the commitment of Access Sacramento. If somebody 6 years ago, when we had the big franchise war discussion, remember we stayed here till 2 in the morning, had told me that not only were we going to get an excellent franchisor and we were going to have community programmers, if somebody would have said, Francis, your agency is going to win Best Program of the Year in 1989 across all programs, not programs for special people or special programs, but every program produced that year in 1989. Our program, our documentary on our agency was deemed the best, most entertaining, most beneficial program of the year. I don't know where we would have developed that expertise, and it was through the commitment of people like Ron Cooper and his belief that all of us should have access to that vital technology. Also, you know, the Visual and Performing Arts High School in Sacramento, it's 500 students inside of a high school of over several thousand that has a tremendously bad reputation for a high school dropout rate, but the kids that are in the Visual and Performing Arts Magnet have an incredibly low dropout rate, something like 3% against the 40% for the total population, and that's because they have at their access this kind of technology for their programming. And Access Sacramento is just fantastic with those kids. And I can't imagine anymore what it would be like to live in this community without that resource. So I say to you, let's not be fixing things that aren't broken, and let's not be throwing out babies with the bathwater. And then I would like to the staff of the commission. I know it's 3 minutes. I'm no longer making a presentation. This is point of clarification. I was reading your RFP, and it says on the second page, the third page, second line, that you are very much interested in determining acceptable program content, and that would be one of the criterion for evaluating any proposers. So I think we need to get that straightened out. But anyway, I ask you to remember that Access Sacramento has brought great honor to this community. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, members of the board,
Would you adjust the microphone for the lady so she's standing
I'm so
between
short,
the
I
two of
didn't
them?
think I'd need it. There, can you hear me better now?
Yeah. Actually, if you stand in the middle, those two mics are supposed to be balanced. We'll see.
All right, are they balanced now?
Mm-hmm.
I represent the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. I'm just here to simply state we are very appreciative of the program that has been offered to our church on many occasions, and we have received tremendous benefits from those programs and would simply ask that for the continued support in that behalf. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Pramila Kriplani is next, and that person will be followed by Dr. Singh.
My name is Pramila Kriplani, and I'm the president of the Association of Indian Women in America. However, I don't just represent the women today, but the Indian community at large. Access Sacramento has given us the ability to communicate our culture to the American community, which has helped us to be better accepted. It also helps us to communicate with each other over the airwaves. Access Sacramento has always encouraged different types of groups to participate, and we feel that this process empowers us to become better citizens. Access Sacramento does a great job for many different groups, and I agree with Francis, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. Thank you.
Okay. Dr. Singh to be followed by Jerry Paulson.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and members of the board. My name is Dr. Ram Chandra Singh. I am an educator and a civil engineer. Access Sacramento is one of the finest opportunity for members who are from different communities, from different culture. I'm from India, and I came to Sacramento in 1989, and since then I have found that programs which are connected with the Indian community have been produced by Access Sacramento, and it has made a very good impact on the communities in this area and also overseas. I was involved in the production of 2 documentaries. In 1991, the Indian Prime Minister Rajiv Gandhi was assassinated, and with the help of Access Sacramento, I produced a 1-hour documentary relating the events in Rajiv Gandhi's life, and there was a panel discussion of 3 members from the Bay Area. This program was aired several times in our community. I sent a copy of that tape to Mrs. Sonia Gandhi, wife of the late Prime Minister. I received a very touching letter from her that she appreciated the effort that I put in and the help the Access Sacramento has given to us in producing that wonderful documentary. Copy of this documentary was sent to the Consul General in San Francisco and also in Washington, D.C. So the people of Indian community have been able to see and hear our point of view. There was a second musical documentary that I produced, or a musical program, which was aired, and copy of that was sent to the producer in India, Mr. Sunil Dutt, who wanted that one of the songs from that should be aired in India all over the country. The Indian Parliament passed a rule that particular song which enhances the cooperation and cohesion between different communities will be produced and broadcast in India all over the country in the future. Access Sacramento has done wonderful for us. To err is human. To forgive is superhuman. I would like you to give them chance. I would like one thing, that instead of having a 24-hour programming, it should be limited to certain times, say midnight or so. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Singh. Jerry Paulson, to be followed by Robert Keller.
Hi, my name is Jerry Paulson, for the record, and I'm here representing the Alliance for Community Media. I'm the regional chair of the Far West region, which comprises California, Nevada, and Hawaii. My comments, although I agree with most of the supporters of Sacramento, really I want to speak to what I see as a process being carried out here, and that is evaluation by RFP. I don't know, as a kind of a fairly removed observer of this process, I know what I've heard in casual conversations and read in the paper, that there are what are perceived by the Commission to be substantial organizational problems with Access Sacramento, and where the place where they're showing up really is not in a formal evaluation, but in the criteria for evaluation in the RFP that you are sending out. And, you know, I'd really like some reaction or feedback. That is that the composition of the governing board, that the manner in which the budget and operating plan from Access Sacramento, from the adequacy of securing collateral funding by Access Sacramento, by methods of accountability and effectiveness by Sacramento, and by outreach and marketing efforts by Sacramento, in some way, shape, or form has been found by the Commission to be problematic or inadequate. In the educational field from whence I hail, and in most businesses that are run, usually there's a process of working with problems, evaluation, and avenues of correcting any problems before disciplinary action is taken. I would urge the Commission, if that process is not in place in the current grant with any of the grantees, that in considering renewal or in considering the new grant agreement in the future, that such processes be written, that such processes be employed, so that you don't find yourself in a situation again where it takes a RFP to begin to address problems that should have been taken care of in a ordinary course of checks.
Thank you. Robert Keller, to be followed by Min Nagain. Is Robert Keller?
He's here.
Yes.
He's here.
He's here.
Oh, excuse me.
Making the turn.
Making the turn. Is it not enough of a...
Thank you. Members of the Commission, my name is Robert Keller. I am the Executive Director of the Disabled American Rights Network. We are political activists, and we use the media to create change in society. We opened our organization in Hawaii 4 years ago. The disabled there were being dropped off of lifts by the paratransit system, one a month. Almost every month somebody would fall off of a ramp and injure themselves. Here in Sacramento, we have great problems with the paratransit system as well. We have to thank Access Sacramento and Ron Cooper for providing us with an outlet to show people what it's really like for the disabled in Sacramento. Physically challenged individuals are the most discriminated against individuals in the world. We went to Hawaii because facilities and help for the physically challenged in Hawaii was very bad. After 4 years, we created a movement. We came to Sacramento in the belief that this would be the hub of the most liberal state in the United States as far as laws governing the disabled, like the Americans with Disabilities Act. In fact, we found out in the long run that the real reason we came here is because there are more disabled people being abused in daycare centers, in board and care centers, in skilled nursing facilities, by in-home service workers, et cetera, than anywhere else in the nation. Sacramento is behind the times when it comes to what's really being done for the disabled by at least 30 years. Access Sacramento provides a platform and a venue to educate people and make them aware as to what really is going on out there. It is the tool that our 75,000 subscriber members use to empower themselves in a system that is economically and politically corrupt and is continuing to disempower people of disabilities. I am very confused after reading the RFB statement as to why it has been open to all nonprofit organizations except for Access Sacramento. Can somebody clarify that?
Yeah, I intervene to say that Access Sacramento is thoroughly eligible to apply.
They are thoroughly eligible?
Absolutely.
Yes.
Okay.
Please continue.
All right, well, all I have to say is that I came into television from commercial TV, then public broadcasting, and then I walked backwards, so to speak, into Access. Commercial television and public broadcasting have no desire to cover any real disabled issues. They do not want our voice on their television because it doesn't make them any money. PBS doesn't want the disabled because they're afraid if they appeal to one disabled group that they're going to have to give equal time to the next and the next and the next. So public access has become the only venue that we have for expression. And we ask that you carefully consider making a rather silly mistake over 2 small accidents. If you want to see indecency on TV, look at all the basic cable stations like Channel 38, et cetera. And I think Mr. Ruppert must know that I'm representing the voices of 75,000 Sacramento cable subscribers. Thank you.
Thank you. Min, to be followed by Mr. Gutierrez.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen of the Commissioner. My name is Minh Nugent. I am representing the Vietnamese Buddhist Community Temple in Sacramento. Today I come here to ask you for your consideration in keeping the Access Sacramento Community Cable, namely channels 17 and 18, in operation. The main reason is this channel offers a various programs about different culture and nation. This country is built by people from all over the world. And in order to live in harmony, we need to understand and know about the other people. Access Sacramento is the bridge that bonding people together. We believe that the people who operate the Access Sacramento cable channels work very hard to keep their programs informative to all of us. We are all benefiting by the program of the Access channel. Please keep them in operation. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Gutierrez, followed by Mr. Lucas.
Good afternoon. How are we doing today? My name is Efren Gutierrez, and I represent a group here in Northern California called the Chicano Consortium. In our local...
Would you pause a moment while she raises the microphones, please? Thank you.
Thank you. Good afternoon. We'll try this again. Good afternoon. My name is Efren Gutierrez, and I represent a group here in Northern California called the Chicano Consortium. Here in Sacramento, as you know, we've been going through a lot of changes in our local government, for the positive, I must say. And many of us in the community have been using public access as a tool, which is, I believe, that is what it was intended for, a very valuable tool. And as you know, if I'm keeping my scorecard right here, it's about 8-2 that is spoken for versus against. And you can see the diversity in those that have spoken for it. And each one has spoken with their own special need. Without public access functioning as it does, those needs would not be met. I ask of you to consider that somebody's personal dilemma, when obviously you have cable, you obviously have 52 other channels in which you can view or find your children can view. I suggest let your fingers do the clicking and change the channel. Do not destroy the tool, okay? As we know, we understand there's budget crunches. Yes, money has to be reallocated. But don't take away one of those things that we all enjoy and we can all share with each other. You've heard people from India, you've heard people from Asian background, myself, a Chicano, a citizen of the United States, and we're all telling you, don't take away these tools. I know you have to cut, I know you have to redirect those tools and monies, but don't do it to this particular item. I think you'll find, as it's been stated, 2 years nationally recognized, folks. That says something. Obviously, I don't know where Mrs. Gross has been for those last 2 years, but she's been seeing quality programming. And we have to understand that. Let's put it in perspective. Mistakes do happen. We're human. Obviously, public access is human too, and there will be errors. Let's give them a little credit. Let's look at the good things versus the 2 or 3 not so good things that may be on occasion. Again, I suggest to her, if Mrs. Gross or whoever's protesting here looks at National Geographic, you'll see more nudity and butt showing and everything else, and that's on regular television. A very popular movie that we've just seen not too long ago, Dancing with Wolves. Again, I mean, that's a kind of a historical perspective. But there was a lot of stuff going on too that you might want to be squeamish about. But folks, this is America. This is California. We talk about homosexuality. We just went through that. Our own president, hopefully, is making it clear to us, the citizenry, things are a-changing. So let's continue the progressive ways, and hopefully you support public access. Thank you.
Thank you. Before calling on the last 2 speakers, these will be all we can accommodate today. We are moving to close the meeting in time for another meeting that is to take place no later than starting at 5 p.m. So we have to clear the room a bit ahead of that, and we have several other items. There will be another opportunity to speak in March. Now, Ray Lucas, to be followed by Ronald Hatch.
Hi, how are you? Hope you're all well today. My name is Ray Lucas. I'm also with the Chicano Consortium. I just completed a class at Coloma Center called Multi-Camera Studio Production. I'm also with the Chicano Consortium, so we're planning to use that medium to reach a larger audience, something that was not available to us before. I'm also a parent, and I agree that sexual explicitness to a degree and bad language has no place on a channel which is accessible by children. However, I don't think the lady who spoke earlier represents the entire community. Okay. There may be those who think differently. We have to be careful that we not serve one person's needs. I don't think that her moral conscience or homophobia represents everyone's idea of what public access should be. It has affected my life. I'm now unemployed, and I'm looking towards the training and experience I'm getting doing camera work with shows like Profiles of Labor and Latin Accents. Things which benefit the community, to help me find gainful employment here in the community. It also applies to a degree which I've never been able to achieve, and with the help of these classes, because they satisfy certain requirements for a 2-year degree, I can accomplish that. You must consider that your decision could have far-reaching effects into the community. How many good programs will you lose if some cable company comes in and starts showing, the Home Shopping Network or something like that? I think we don't want to lose time to silly programs like that when we could really be affecting the community, getting together and making change. Thank you.
Thank you. Final speaker, Mr. Hatch.
Hi, my name is Ron Hatch. I've been a resident of Sacramento. I was raised here since 1951, and so is my family. And I have to admit, in my 41 years of watching television, I've seen a few heterosexuals make love and kiss on television. Being a gay man, how do you feel about that? Myself, I've experienced this my entire life, the prejudice against gay and lesbian people that have been residents of this city. And the first time in 1988 in June, I was responsible for being the first producer and provider of programming that was for gay and lesbian audience and also for the audience in general. I'm an educator. I teach at California Middle School. I believe in education. If people would watch the program that's been on 1 hour every week for the last 5 years, they would be educated somewhat about gay and lesbians, instead of just seeing the stereotypes that they see on regular television about us and the actually hostile environment that's given to us even on other programs, even today in 700 Club and other ones that are always putting us down. We're human beings. We're residents of this city. We have been residents. We will be residents of this city. Cable Access Sacramento has given us the first opportunity for us to communicate, educate ourselves. We have problems within our own community of homophobia also. I did not like myself for most of my life. Many young gay and lesbian people commit suicide because they do not like themselves, and they don't know much about what they're feeling and what is going on here. This has been the first opportunity for us as a minority and a discriminated community to have access to television, to educate ourselves, and to also educate fellow Sacramentans about who we are as human beings also. So I'm very grateful for public access. Since I came in first and took the classes in 1987 at Access Sacramento, I've never been discriminated against there by any of the staff, by any of the people. I have been greeted by everyone there with the only thing I would know is that they wanted to learn more about myself and people like me, and have been very accommodating and helpful in us using the television as it should be used for all the people, including us. And I'd like to thank you very much. I cannot see in the list that I see here any other group doing a better job than Access Sacramento and the board we have. 30 seconds. Can I take any questions from any of you in the last 30 seconds?
No, you did a great job.
Thanks. Thank you very much.
Thank you. This will close the public hearing portion of this. Is there any comment from any member of the Cable Commission?
I have a comment, Mr. Fletcher. Is my microphone on?
Yeah, we can hear.
In December, when we discussed this action in executive session, you all remember my concern. That concern stays with me today. And we've heard for the past hour, I don't know how many people in this community giving testimonials to what Access Sacramento has been doing in this community for the past 5-6 years. The only reason that I, as an elected official of this city, even agreed to entertain cable television entering our community was for the opportunity for activities such as public access. There was an attempt in 1970 to bring cable television to this community, and that was stopped. We finally accepted cable television in Sacramento for the purpose, at least my purpose, was to provide access to this new and emerging technology. I don't know that we could do any better by submitting an RFP and going out for proposals and considering those in another month. The integrity of Michael Hayward as chair of the Access Sacramento, and based upon the information that I've heard today, I think we would save us a lot of time and a lot of effort if we were to direct staff to apply the evaluation criteria that are contained in the RFP to the existing contract with Access Sacramento and take Michael Hayward's suggestion up and give him a year and use the evaluation criteria in the next 12 months to see where we are before we issue an RFP and start from scratch soliciting proposals from the entire community as well as Access Sacramento. So I'm prepared to move, Mr. Fletcher, that we withdraw the RFP and evaluate the performance in a year.
Okay, could we make some comments first?
Mr. Chairman,
by placing that motion on the table, I'd like to entertain a second so you can discuss
motion has been presented. Is there a second?
I'll second
it. It is open for discussion. First, Ayala and Dave.
Okay. I think the issue here is not public access per se. I think if you look at the idea even behind the RFP is public access. That's what this Cable Commission wants. The Cable Commission has responsibility for 7 channels. And every one of us serving on this Cable Commission also serves on another local government body that is under heavy attack in terms of how we spend our resources. There is no certainty in my mind as to what kind of resources this Cable Commission is going to have, and in terms of programming, entities to go ahead and do the actual programming on those cable channels we're responsible for. So my whole support for an RFP comes from an accountability standpoint. This does not preclude the Access Board of Directors from responding to that RFP. They, like any other group out there that think they could promote public access and programming for all different groups of Sacramentans, are free to respond to the RFP. But for really the very first time in this Commission's history of having responsibility for a system that we really didn't design, came about through a settlement conference, we would begin to look at real accountability on those public access channels. There are, after all, 2 channels that we're talking about today. And it seems to me that we ought to be doing this through an RFP and contractual arrangement so that we provide both ourselves protection and whoever the particular person or grantee or group is that becomes the grantee protection in that process. The goals of that, the evaluation goals, I think are laid out for anyone to look at in terms of what this commission would be looking at. And frankly, what I had hoped we would hear today from the groups that, or from the people that are addressing us, the issue is not your ability to have access. The issue is the accountability process to our cable subscribers and the increasing problem that we're going to come under in terms of public scrutiny as to how monies are being utilized. This is no small amount of money. When we are cutting programs in child protection services, when every one of us are facing cuts in law enforcement, this is no small amount of money that's being given out to a community group. I think we owe it to ourselves to go through an RFP process and to have something that we can show both to the subscribers on this system as well as to our own constituents that we are acting in a process where they can hold us accountable and where we can hold the public access group accountable. So that's where I'm coming from in supporting the process.
Mr. Chairman, let me thank you, and let me, as a new person on the board, let me say to you that there are at least 2 questions raised this afternoon, and during the time that I have spent looking at this, the very first question that seems to have been raised is, do we want a public access channels? And I guess my conclusion is that the answer is yes, without equivocation. The next question that seems to me to be raised, and that is, who do we want to provide the service as far as public access is concerned? So I raised the question to the staff, how much does this RFP, how much will this cost? How much staff time will be involved?
It's my estimation, Mr. Cox, that we can process this RFP through with existing staff resources. It might change if there were dozens or hundreds of responses, but I consider this to be priority staff work that can be done with existing resources.
Is it Mr. Cooper, your inclination to respond to this RFP? It was reported in the newspaper that you didn't know whether you were going to respond or not. Mr. Cooper.
He better not respond.
No, I wouldn't think but there might very well be some reason for you to respond.
The newspaper reporter called and wanted an answer, and the Board of Access Sacramento would make the decision and then direct the staff in terms of response. So without having a meeting of the board to determine, based on the decisions made here today, that is the nature of my response.
All right. Well, let me just say to you that that if the purpose of you can continue to I don't have any additional questions of you, Mr. Cooper, but if our reason for asking for an RFP is to, in fact, determine whether there's a better way, and as I framed it, accountability, or rather to eliminate a board or a staff that this commission deems to be uncooperative. I guess I wouldn't favor using an RFP in that manner, but I would in fact and do support an RFP from the standpoint to look at the competitiveness of the marketplace, to see if we can do it better than it's currently being done. But I do take issue, sir, with one respect, and that is that as it relates to channels 17 and 18, if we control 7 channels, I would much prefer to see us go out with an RFP for those entire 7 channels, not just 2. Because from my vantage point, that does smack of saying to Access Sacramento that in fact we do want to eliminate your board, or we want to eliminate your staff. And from that standpoint, I would be much more comfortable if the RFP included all of the 7 stations, just not the 2, and that's just my personal opinion.
Is that all? Any other comment? Are you ready? Go ahead.
Mr. Chair, I'm also a new kid on the block, but
I think I've read a lot to bring me sort of up to date on what the situation was. And since the last 2 weeks, I've received a lot of correspondence. I almost felt like Terry Castanis peeked over here on my notes and read off all of my recommendations. I too agree with Terry that I would like to see Access Sacramento submit answers to all of the questions that we're asking for in an RFP, and that they will also be evaluated according to the criteria that's set forth. In addition to that, I would also like to have them submit a financial report or in their proposal so that at the end of the 1-year probation period, we have something to compare with. And that would more or less give us a way to check their accountability regards to Isla's concern. So in that respect, I'd like to back up my second to Terry Castanis' motion, and that have those requirements included in the motion.
If that's an amendment, Mr. Yee, I'll certainly accept that.
Yeah,
I think that's a very good idea.
Right.
Call for the question. I wish to make a comment first. I think it is too early to withdraw on the course of action set by our commission in December. I think we need the added month to mull over the ideas that have been expressed today, and to have a regard for the fact that here's $500,000 which we as local officers representing the cities and counties must come to a conclusion as to the best way to spend it. Let's not kid ourselves. This money is as available for other purposes. It's public money gathered for public use, and it is as available for other purposes as it is for access. I'm only saying that to lend a balance to this day, that in the process of granting funds, we who are the elected officials are going to be faced with that very topic. Is it best to use it for boys and girls in some other program because the state is taking our funds or we don't have enough income? And we need to mull this over more than to back away from a plan that we authorized back in December. So I want you to know that I'm drawing attention that we must do this in a deliberate fashion, and we do have to establish a higher level of responsibility for any dollar that's used. And if time were more sufficient, I could give you many details. So that's part of the record as well.
Excuse me, Chair Fletcher, don't mean to be argumentative, but I think by delaying, by going forward, we're raising the expectations of a lot of community groups, people who are here today. I think that's the risk we take if we proceed and not take action today. It seems to me that we are going to indeed do it or not. My inclination is to give them another year, and I think that's what we're trying to determine today. I don't want to see a lot of public groups out there preparing the RFP and us turn around in a month and say, well, we were just kidding, we didn't mean it. So I think that's an important decision to make at this time.
They wouldn't go out until March meeting is over. March 4th.
But they would be preparing it from now. Well, that's my point.
Okay. Well, the question, though, excuse me, the question, Terry, is there a better way?
That's what we want to find out. If there is, then I agree with you. I think you'd better take a look at the whole $1.5 million.
I think so
too. And take a look, and maybe we want to do something else with that money. But it seems to me we're not prepared to do that. And if you want to open that up, then I think that's an entirely different discussion we ought to take under the realm of in different context. Right now we're talking about the present RFP, and I think we should deal with that now. And if you'd like to come back and consider the Education Consortium, KVIE, and the other grantees, and I'll be happy to join with you in that.
Okay, well, but let me just say, and just a half another minute, I'm not sure that if we withdraw this RFP, then we'll have that opportunity, and for that reason, I would not be able to support this your motion to grant an extension.
Yeah, Dave, I'd like to make a comment on your question. Maybe there is something better out there. Dave, all I've heard is nothing but good comments on how well the programming has been in the past. I mean, they've won all kinds of awards. I don't know what more to expect. I truly believe that this whole incident in December is what brought this subject up, and they've formed a task force to address those issues. The task force has come back with recommendations to take care of those problems. The board have taken even a harder line than the task force had recommended. So from my perspective, I feel that they've done everything they could to try to take care of the problems that was in existence back in December. And that's why I'm ready to go on the motion today.
Let's call for the question.
Yes, go.
Okay. Do you understand what the motion is?
Yes.
All right. Call the roll.
Grantland Johnson. Toby Johnson.
No.
Collin.
No.
Yee.
Yes.
Cox.
No.
Castanis.
Aye.
Panay.
No.
Fletcher.
No.
Motion fails.
The motion is lost. This means we proceed to the March meeting. Shall we go to the next item? Item 5, Access Sacramento presentation. Mike, are you handling that?
He did that as a part of the other.
Or do you want to rest with what you did under the other one?
And I do have a question then, Mr. Chairman. If I wanted to raise the issue at a subsequent meeting, how would I go about doing that as far as the RFPs for 7 channels?
We could do that.
Someone would
just add it to
I'm
the
sorry?
agenda.
At the next meeting?
I'm just asking that question. Someone give me some guidance as to how you do that. I'd be appreciative.
Any member of the commission can put an item on the agenda. It'll be on the
I'd like to
agenda.
have that on the March 4th item then.
Please, Mike, I'm sorry, the interruption. Have we satisfied your presentation on number 5?
Yes, I believe I'd hoped to make that clear that you were, in the interest of saving time, covering both in my question.
Okay, thank you.
However, if there are any questions that any of the commissioners would have, Ramsey Elliott is still with us, and he was a member of the task force.
Yeah. We do have 2 persons that asked to speak on this topic. John Zacharias, are you available and wish to speak? Followed by Ronald Hatch. Yeah.
Still on item 5? Are we on item 5?
John Zacharias,
yes.
President, Visual Performing Arts Foundation. I would like to support the rules that have been presented by Access Sacramento. I think they address quite adequately the problems that came up previously. And my only other comment is, I wish I'd heard the discussion that the Commission had following our public discussion, because I think there's some issues that you brought up that we probably would have liked to address. But we will have a chance next time. Thank you.
Yeah. That ends the number of persons who wish to speak that topic, and we shall now move to item number 6, the 93-94 Community Programming Funding Allocations.
Mr. Chairman, this material was presented to you for decision in March. Integral to the decision to go or not go with an RFP is a decision on what funds will be allocated to the various grantees at that time. It's information only at this time, with the adviso that over the past several months, your community programming grantees have requested to address certain key issues, key aspects of this issue to you. And I recommend that they be alerted that the meeting in March will be an appropriate time to discuss that. Some aspects are fixed allocation funding of commission resources for community programming and or particular grantees. These issues have been raised. Originally, they were set to be discussed in February in our master schedule. I'm now saying they should be moved to March. This is the information for that packet. Secondly, we began in June a redrafting process of the grant agreements. As we'll see in our next item, the entitlement grant agreement is now packaged and complete. It was suggested by the Commission, although not formally decided, that we develop a procurement/performance contract in our process. One of the decisions leading to that process is whether we will continue with the 90-10 allocation split. So for your consideration, thoughts, discussion over the next month. No action required today.
Any other comment? We have one speaker on item number 6, the community programming funding, Robert Keller.
Go ahead. You don't need a quorum on combined.
Thanks, Jerry. See you later.
Behave yourself.
Rich, while Mr. Keller's coming forward, could you make your item number 1 staff status report?
Can begin if we'd like.
Anything you wish to comment on in terms?
Yes, there are 3 or 4 items I wish to address in the staff status
Come on
report.
down.
Find my, caught me off guard. Gotta find my right set of notes.
Which had quite a bit.
He's going to be here. He's here.
Oh, the gentleman
We
is
can
here,
hold it.
so we'll go ahead with Mr. Keller.
Can't find our notes.
I will be very brief this time. I understand the economic situation that we're all living in, and I understand that priorities really have to be considered as to whether, for example, the homeless are more important than Access TV is for funding. I think we need to remember that one of the things that Access Television is capable of doing, and can do, and does do, is to help various sectors of the community, like the homeless, to be able to find and locate venues and means and ways of carrying their programs off, of getting what they need to get. I also think that we need to take into account that if we cut access because of funds, we should therefore cut educational and governmental programming as well and move all of that money into another area. I also would like to suggest this to the Commission as an overall view. Why do we need more than one access station? Why do we need more than one government station? And why do we need more than one educational station? That's all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you.
To clarify, we do have 2 public access stations, channels, correct? 1 government channel, 2 education.
Actually 3 if you count KVIE as education.
Okay, do they? And they're in the education field. So there's 2. There's the channel 7, and the 2 educational channels.
21 and 22.
Yeah. So if you have them.
Right, but that's what I'm getting at. I mean, if KVIE broadcasts on channel 7, why do we have to give them channel 6?
We don't. Channel 6 is not ours to allocate. No, we do not.
Channel 6 is a broadcast station that's required.
7 is the one we give them there?
Right. 7 is
Thanks, I got my numbers back.
Okay.
I mean, if they're on one, why do we have to give them another one? I really think that the idea of being frugal here can be applied, but I think we have to watch what we're applying it to. As well as our local government station here, you've got C-SPAN 1 and C-SPAN 2, 2 more political stations on the basic package. And frankly, I mean, some of my cohorts may not like this, but I don't think we need 2 access stations. I think 1 would be fine.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I think the issue that we're looking at in this particular thing is program allocations. The Cable Commission will have, as my understanding, $1,038,055 available to it. And you're right, Orville. You know,
and
cities and counties
trim down a little bit using that funding. That's what I'm suggesting.
Okay.
That's all. Thank you.
Thank you. May we close out that topic then? Okay, Rich, it's all yours.
Next item is, I mentioned briefly a minute ago, the entitlement grant agreement. I believe this is the final draft. We'll know if you have any green cards or green tickets to speak. Background, we released a draft early fall. There have been 2 successive drafts. In my conversations or lack of conversations with grantee managers, I believe that the entitlement grant agreement before you now is the final boilerplate. The next phase would be to take this to a specific grant agreement in the entitlement mode with each grantee. It's a receive and file for your information. I intend to hopefully bring back to you next month the entitlement grant agreement, this agreement, and the performance procurement agreement in its final form. I met this week with the grantee managers. We're moving along just fine. I'd like to bring it all to you next month for decision.
Okay, the way that this is put together then, where it has the
notes?
it's highlighted, for instance. That's the only word I can think of it.
The red line
Then it says
strikeout.
explanatory note, this clarification is made, I'm just doing one as an example, page 2 I'm doing it. To resolve a perceived ambiguity raised by KBIE, see comment to section 4.01 below. I assumed that meant we're leaving it in.
Yes.
Yes.
The items that are in
we
the...
added something.
That's right.
Okay.
The items that are shaded are the most recent additions.
Okay. And they're added in, they're not deleted out.
That's right. If there were a line through it, it would be deleted out.
Okay.
The explanatory notes will disappear. They're there for your, so you can track the growth of the
Which
document.
one, yeah.
Right.
Okay.
Does that complete your commentary?
It does, sir.
Is there any question that you wish to ask Rich at this point?
No, I haven't received any other feedback from any of the current grantees.
Rich, do you want to make any other comments before I open the item number 8, the final item?
Yes, I'd like to go back to item number 1, now that I found my notes. I have several items to pass by you. For the new members, we have a policy, a delegation policy of actions that staff can take. I'd like to review these with you. These are ones I intend to take or have taken. The ones I have taken, I hope you agree with. Just review several things. In the last 2 weeks, there's 2 phone book-sized stacks of material on my desk, some of which arrived over the weekend, has been our comments and filings on the FCC Notice of Proposed Rulemakings. I mentioned to you last month this was going to be busy. We've been through it all. The filings look very good. I'm pleased to report at least the filings that were made on the customer service side are about that thick. When you get down to the final recommendations of what the League of Cities, Association of Counties, Conference of Mayors recommend for the boilerplate standard federal level customer service regulations, they read very much like ours. We're not quite cookie cutter, but real close. Brent's words are there.
Well, your words are there. I think the important thing for you to realize is that you're setting a pattern for the whole nation to follow. At least that's what's been submitted.
I met with Brian and cable staff yesterday. They should have no problem adjusting those if they're adopted as drafted. The rate regulation filings are in place. That's just the first filing. The response comments are due next week. The NTOA has asked for financial contributions into the process. They've left it open to what can be contributed. I'm recommending that we take money from our savings I reported last month in insurance and add $2,000 to our NTOA membership fee to compensate them for the work that they've done. That works out to be $400 per filing that we've participated in. The estimated cost they have nationwide is $500,000. I'll remind you that in 1984, our participation in the Cable Act then was $52,000 in outside consultant fees, as well as, I believe, 3 staff trips back and forth to Washington. This time we participated in the collective approach. I think we've been effective, we've been in, but it hasn't been expensive. If you don't tell me otherwise, I'd like to move that way. Secondly, next week, Senator Boxer is holding a town hall in this chamber. Channel 14 is not cable casting it. Access Sacramento is cable casting it. I want you to know that because it is in this chamber, we will be providing a staff person for 3 hours as technical liaison for the equipment in this room. Our agreement is to assist in managing that equipment to any group. If the SPCA were having a meeting here, had rented the space from the county and was requesting to use the equipment and had not been yet trained, we would provide a liaison. We'll be doing that again. Number 3, on the front page of the Bee this morning, there was a reference to a Senate hearing yesterday on pay at the pump. It got a lot of attention. It was carried live on CalSpan, and the last hour of the meeting provided for viewer call-in. I want you to know that in accordance with the budget, what I told you at budget time, you can do that same thing from this chamber. This chamber is now wired that way. If it was ever your pleasure to have a viewer constituent call in a public hearing, you could do that like the Senate did yesterday. Next, we've been requested by the State Department of Transportation to do it.
Does that mean that when one of us is homesick, we can call in?
Yes. Yes.
I have been homesick before and had to watch some of the meetings.
You could not
just go crazy.
As I understand the current law, the Brown Act amendments weren't implemented last year that would have made your vote count if you were watching via electronic medium. But you could correspond, and what you say would be heard here. What is heard here, you would hear at home either over the phone or over your set.
Yeah, I was quickly on the telephone, but...
Yeah, we need about a half-hour hookup time. Department of Transportation has asked us to assist in preparing a training tape within their program on minority and affirmative action qualifications on a statewide program. For us, it's a similar training tape to that which we did with Housing and Redevelopment Agency. It's cost neutral to us. The advantages is that we will end up with programming that's appropriate and educational on applying for and getting onto MBE, FBE approved lists. Caltrans gets the product they can use statewide. The other thing it does is that we have some talented crew and staff. Once a quarter, I try and find a project that stretches them a little bit beyond just straight camera work. Again, it's cost neutral to us. Next issue, if there's no questions, is that our ordinance requires every 3 year, an evaluation, a back off by staff, and discussion by you, and a noticed and open public hearing about where we are in the big picture. That 3 years would have been this month, or last month actually. I'm recommending that I'm going to, with your permission, let the schedule slip a little bit, and we do this in May or June after we've had a chance to assess what comes out of the regulations with the FCC. Where SAT cable is now relative to customer service is fine. There may be changes relative to rate regulation. Rather than in an evaluative mode and a backup mode, being prospective, I'd rather be accurate. So I'm deliberately letting that slip on the schedule if one of you happen to be reading the franchise ordinance at night and notice that we're behind. Next month could be a busy agenda. I may let it slip. If you recall, we did profiles or in-depth interviews with retiring elected officials as part of a
There's an exit poll.
An exit poll, an exit discussion.
Actually,
one of the
very good program.
One of the things I want to bring to you is a concept for discussion only, some ideas on how you as elected officials might use Channel 14 to interact on a one-on-one basis before, after, or a different day of a meeting, on a randomized basis on an issue, and as is issue item. We've got some drafts, we've got some ideas, so I'll bring it to you for your consideration. The goal is to give you the opportunity with your busy schedules to be a little closer to your constituency. It'll be wide open, plenty of time for discussion. So far we've got staff time involved in it, but not any other commitment of resources. I mentioned to you that we would be doing this in the third quarter of the fiscal year in our budget cycle. And lastly, two other lastlies actually. Election forums for District 5 on the city side will be cablecast live on the 18th of February on Channel 14, all of the mode that we've always used in the League of Women Voters stance format. Did I miss something, Di? And last, Nancy here, who's helped us a bunch, is moving on, so we're going to miss her. Thanks, Nancy. That's all.
Thank you.
I have one hesitation about the one recommendation. My hesitation is there is a line you cross between simply being a channel that covers, legitimate government programming and campaigning. And I have to say that I really am very leery of anything that gets us into any other type of interaction on a government channel other than our government meetings. And that's just a hesitation I have, because I really think you cross a very difficult line when you begin to give elected officials a forum that perhaps a future challenger would not have to us. And so I would be very leery of getting into that on the government channel.
I'm not betting the farm on this. We'll put it.
Yeah, I just don't want you to put a whole bunch of work into it.
We've thought about it.
I really don't know.
It's an alternative.
I have a lot of hesitation. I don't think that's, my gut tells me it's not proper. That the proper forum for handling these things are in our government meetings. If people want to come to those meetings or they want to raise questions about that, they can come to a follow-up meeting. But it does not give the elected official an advantage that someone else does not have. So that's why I would not, I would not as one member agree to town hall meetings by elected officials on the government channel. I shared that with you. I don't think that's proper either.
Mr. Yu? Yes, thank you, Chairman. I had a brief conversation with Rich a couple of weeks ago regarding the issue of whether cable should be provided, or cable television should be provided for Planning Commission meetings, and it's been something that I wanted to see for many years. I think that land use decisions are very important to a lot of people in the community, and that rather than being forced to attend all of the Planning Commission meetings, it would be very convenient for them to at least keep on top of what our Planning Commissions are doing. I'd like to have Rich explore that area and report back to this board his findings, to the extent that this board should consider whether we should perhaps provide television for all of our planning commissions, and that's city, county, and also Galton.
And Folsom.
Ileton.
Yeah, I support Jimmy wholeheartedly in this, and that's because for both the county of Sacramento and I assume for Galton, for Folsom, and for the city, powers are delegated to the Planning Commission. That there are many items that never get to the Board of Supervisors, and yet they really affect our constituents, and our constituents usually are extremely unhappy, and then they find out that we didn't even hear the issue. It was heard at the Planning Commission. So I asked Rich if he could look at how much that would cost in terms of covering those Planning Commission meetings. But I know from my contacts in the community, probably the heaviest watched board meetings are even on land use, and it's probably the same thing with the City Council. Those land use decisions are extremely crucial ones.
If you recall, I did address this issue in the budget presentation last June. It was in the staff report, and it was recommended then, because of cost limitations, that we couldn't bite it off. In round numbers, it's the equivalent of biting off the board and city council as well. But I'd be happy to go through it again. I can dust off that information very quickly. Diane's helped me reassemble it. So I'd be glad to report.
So they don't meet as often as we do. City Planning Commission is every other week.
Every other week.
Every other week. The county probably has a Planning Commission meeting, either project or policy, every week. I'm not sure what Folsom and Galt's are, but you don't have as many meetings, and they don't tend to run as long.
Dave, do you have any? Well, I certainly concur. One housekeeping item, Mr. Chairman, and that is that I am a Channel 14 watcher from time to time, but it would be beneficial to me if I knew what time of the day the broadcast was occurring. For example, it's now 4:44, and I would appreciate on meetings that I'm not attending, I'd like to know whether it was 4:44 that this, to see whether I had watched before or after, and I know that's not it's just kind of a housekeeping situation, but might save me some time to see whether I came in the beginning or the end.
Program guide.
No, he means on the tape to see
I'm talking about on the tape, yes.
Right, we have raised that in staff, and that is one of the criteria on a piece of equipment I'll be proposing in the budget. Right now, if the character generator doesn't have a clock in it, we'd have to key in the time each minute.
I see. Well, we wouldn't want you to do that, but if you get some new equipment, I'd like to see that done, because I do like to watch I'd like to know whether I was watching the beginning of a meeting or the ending of a meeting, and
we've had that comment before. We're tracking on it, and it's one of the criteria of evaluation of a new character generator. Be glad to.
Okay.
Under number 8, commenting on other topics, is Dave Vaca here? Dave? Yeah, elevate.
That's the first test. Can you run the podium?
I know how Dwayne Coswell feels when he stands at any podium. I want to call your attention to a couple of activities that are very exciting to us in SCCC. First, we've handed you a flyer, and on that flyer you have an invitation to our 4th annual awards night. I just want to mention that for the first time we will be conducting our Student Educational Video Award Competition awards that night for the finalists and winners, and hopefully you'll be able to be with us. The second invitation there is a grant jointly awarded to KVIE and SCCC from the Pacific Mountain Network. The live teleconferences are viewed at KVIE and rebroadcast on SCC channels. 5 districts, 7 schools, and the PTA are actively participating in this kindergarten through 3rd grade mathematics program for parents and students via cable, and half of those programs are broadcast in Spanish. We invite you to join us at KVIE for this live teleconference. These are at 6:30 p.m. on Tuesday, March 2nd or March 9th. 2 other activities in mathematics are exciting for us. We have partnered with the Los Angeles County Office of Education in a National Star Schools grant to bring live interactive math and science programs for elementary grades to Sacramento. SCCC has received funds to provide programming materials and support for these programs. Also, the state of California has awarded an $11,000 grant to SCCC to provide a statewide pilot program on the Math AB framework for teachers. This staff development program has been distributed statewide and has been submitted as a section of a $21 million National Science Foundation proposal from the California Department of Education. And finally, we would like to publicly thank the Intel Foundation for providing a $9,000 grant to SCCC to underwrite the Math Helpline program. You also have attached an announcement of the California Distance Learning Summit for Making the Dream a Reality conference, which will be held at the Radisson Hotel. This is the first time we've been able to bring this to Northern California, and we anticipate several hundred participants. I thank you for your time. Enjoyed the meeting today.
Thank you, Jay. Is Min here, who spoke once before? I don't see her in the audience.
Either.
That concludes then the presentation of the afternoon. Does any commission member still left here want to make any further comment? I want to tell you a joke. This is my
No, he's not going to tell me.
All right, I'll tell it to you in March.
I'm glad we're lacking a forum.
Quick. There was a pastor who visited an elderly lady of his congregation, and he was trying to steer the conversation around to religious matters despite her chattering, and finally said, do you ever think about the hereafter? And she said, do I think about it? I think about it all the time. She said, I hardly ever even enter any room anymore without asking myself, what am I hereafter? End of the meeting.